Business ownership has never been hotter, but how do you do it? That's where I come in. Allow me to guide you on your journey. Welcome to Ion Franchise. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another fabulous episode of Ion Franchising. And I'm your host, Lance Gralick. Jesse Coslov is the founder and CEO of an amazing, amazing pet brand. And we're going to talk all things dogs. Well, I guess some cats. I don't know, Jesse, do you handle cats? Anyway, Jesse, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you for having me, and excited
Cats?
to talk all things dogs. We don't touch on cats all that much.
I didn't think so. So the pet industry, Jesse, is so hot, so hot. Everybody is talking about it. So it's a passion play. I love dogs, so thereby I am a good franchise owner, right?
Not exactly. No, not exactly. Everybody, it's kind of like the I love pizza, so therefore I should own a pizza concept. No, so we obviously there has to be some baseline understanding of dogs and love of dogs, and if you're allergic to dogs or scared of dogs, this is not the right business for you. But it's like anything. This is a business, and I think you oftentimes will find people who get attracted to something because it is a passion of theirs. And unfortunately, once they get waist deep in owning a business, whatever the business may be, sometimes you start to lose your passion for whatever it is, not because you don't actually like the subject matter, but because business ownership is difficult and stressful and trying, and so I never like to advise people to go into business purely based on a passion. I think you have to look at it as an added benefit and something that's going to make it better, but certainly not the driving factor or force in pushing you into any business decision.
Yeah, love it. So share with everybody that does not know the Dog Stop,
Sure.
what is the Dog Stop? You guys do everything, it seems, for dogs. So
We
give
do.
me
We
give me
do. And
all those
it's
services and the history.
absolutely. So, at the Dog Stop, we are a bit unique in that regard compared to our competitors, certainly in the franchise space and most others in all the markets we serve. So we offer the overnight boarding, the kenneling, doggy daycare. We do the grooming, which is anything from bath, brush, nails, full haircuts. These days, it's blueberry facials and dyeing hair and crazy braiding of hair. You name it. If you do it for a human, you pretty much can do it for a dog now. We also do the obedience training. We have a retail store packed full of the best toys, treats, foods, accessories on the market. And we also extend to out of brick and mortar services. We do dog walking, overnight pet sitting, pet transportation. We'll take your dog to the vet for you so you don't have to be the bad guy. We have partnerships as well. So we offer virtual vet care services so you can talk to a vet virtually and not have to actually go. So basically everything under one roof for your dog, which obviously customers love, highly convenient. But arguably more importantly, the dogs love it. They get comfortable and acclimated with one facility and actually want to go there. And I think it makes for a better experience for everybody.
I love it. So how did this all come about? How Jesse become the crown prince of dogs?
Sure. So, grew up with dogs my whole life. Always had, at least two in my household growing up. Went off to college and got the first dog of my own. And quickly realized, wow, my parents were right. I wasn't taking care of those dogs at home. They were. And I quickly realized that, on top of, trying to learn how to take care of myself, I had now one and soon to be two dogs of my own, and had a lot of experiences with different groomers, trainers, kennels for when I was traveling or going home, and kind of the time when dog daycare was starting to become a thing. And all throughout college and first couple jobs after college, traveling, all of my experiences with dog care in whatever the service and capacity may have been, left a lot to be desired for me personally. And, I didn't think I was necessarily this, crazy dog person who had unrealistic or too lofty of expectations. I just kind of came to realize that the industry standards that were out there just weren't really what I was looking for. And from talking to friends and family and others that I would meet at dog parks, they agreed. There were a lot of kind of obstacles to overcome if you were able to feel comfortable and want to, be a patron of the boarding kennels, the daycares, the groomers, the obedience trainers, the everything that was out there. So I went and worked at a few and tried to learn myself, why do they do things the way that they do? And really, I guess to take a step back, those problems that I saw, first and foremost, transparency. It's incredible how many places still to this day, 15, 18 years later, transparency is just non-existent. Piggybacking on that, the customer service, people acting as if it's my privilege to pay them to watch my dog. And I'm like, this is a service business. Like every other business, it's, how can we help you? Thank you. The customer's always right, all of those things. So it started with transparency and customer service. And then it was frustrating to me that I had to go find 4 or 5 or 6 different places to satisfy all of my dog care needs. So
Yeah.
let's combine all the services under one roof. Let's have the best possible transparency. Let's make the customer service experience what it should be and mirror that of other, brands, not in our space, but just in the customer service space. And that was really the inspiration for the Dog Stop. It was truly kind of a side hobby business that, was born out of just my own personal kind of needs and a perceived need of those in my community. And at the time, there was really only one franchisor out there offering the concept, and it didn't make sense to me. I think our market was already sold out anyway. But I did, through the investigation process, kind of learn what they said was the metric for success. If you open and by the end of your first year, you have 25 dogs a day for daycare and 20 dogs a night for boarding and 3 dogs a day for grooming, you have found a great location that will continue to grow and flourish into a successful location. So that was my goal. And I always laugh when I look at my original business plan. And we were very fortunate, launched the first location about 6 months in. So forget a year, about 6 months in, we were averaging about 85 dogs a day for daycare and about 70 dogs a night for boarding,
Holy cow.
15
I mean,
dogs a day
holy
for
dog.
grooming. Yeah, exactly. And and just from talking to customers, why are you here and why are you coming from so much farther away than we ever anticipated? And what is it that's making you come 3, 4, 5 times a week as opposed to the 1 or 2 that we kind of suspected would be the case?
Yeah.
And we heard like clockwork, you have all the services under one roof, the transparency from day one. You took us on a tour, you have webcams. Whenever something happens, you take responsibility.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of crazy requests and the customer service is always phenomenal. Like it's important to us to feel like you love our dog as much as we do. And that's why we're here. And that has just kind of always been the founding principles and still kind of guiding light for everybody at the Dog Stop.
I love your passion and I love hearing that history. When you talk about transparency, how does that translate to the Dog Stop? What are you doing differently than some of those competitors to make sure you're transparent and the owners, pet owners, clients, customers are happy?
Yep. So it really starts with the investigation and I try to prep our franchisees for this, that a lot of it is even before you're being investigated. People, because we have webcams, people often now, this is a big decision. Where am I going to take my dog? It's kind of like, where am I going to send my kid to school?
Yeah.
And they're on your website, they're looking at your webcams, they're watching the dogs in your care, they're reading the online reviews, they are absorbing anything and everything that they can to try to learn as much about you before they pick up the phone to inquire, do you have availability? How much does it cost? Whatever those, kind of more intro level questions that you would find with other businesses. When they actually show up to the doors, it's typically not even with their dog that first time. It's, I'm here for a tour, which most of our competitors and unfortunately still to this day don't let you behind, the curtain, so to speak. You stay up front and everything that happens in the back is for the dogs. They love to say, oh, we don't give tours for insurance purposes, or we don't, we do it
Yeah.
every other Saturday. With us, it's give us 2 minutes. We just want to make sure the dogs are where they're supposed to be so you don't get jumped on, but
Yeah.
come on back. I don't care if you're a brand new customer, you've come every day for 5 years. You're always welcome in the back. We look at it as an opportunity to show off what we do. And that's where the transparency starts. The cameras are big. As you become a customer, you can log in. We have cameras so you can watch your dog play. We have these luxury suites where 24/7 camera access. You can watch your dog sleep and eat and whatever else they do in the middle of the night. It's just we have nothing to hide, and we want people to feel as comfortable as possible. So that's part of it. But then, I think that one of the biggest differences, and I know a lot of people in our industry kind of cringe when they hear me say these things, but it's just the way a business should be run. The industry standard at the moment is, God forbid, Lance, your dog gets sick or injured while you're in the care. Kennel XYZ gives you a call and says, hey, Lance, so sorry to tell you, Fluffy has been injured or is sick. You need to come pick her up and get her to the vet. And you come in a panic, and they hand you a sick or injured dog, and they charge you on your way out for your play and stay. And they kind of, wash their hands and say, good luck.
Yeah.
With us, we call and say, hey, so sorry to report, this is what's happened. We're on our way with the dog to the vet right now. You're welcome to meet us, or we'll call with updates. We don't charge you for your play or your stay, and we pay for whatever vet care is associated with whatever happened on our watch. I think it's just the responsible and the right way to run a business. You brought us a healthy, intact dog, and if we can't return you a healthy and intact dog, we have to take responsibility for whatever we did that allowed that to happen, even though 70% of the time it may not even be our fault, but it's the nature of doing business. And we have an incredible customer retention rate when things do go wrong, because customers understand that we are doing our very best and we're taking responsibility for whatever happens. So I think that added level of transparency beyond just having some cameras is just enormous, and what pet parents frankly deserve and expect these days.
I think that's fantastic. Let's talk about the investment. What is the investment, and how big are these locations typically?
Yeah, and it's perfect timing for that question, because we're making some changes there, just trying to deal with the macroeconomic factors that everyone's dealing with in terms of higher interest rates and increased construction costs and things like that. So currently, and FDD's outline, federal disclosure documents for everybody out there who's not as into the vernacular. So our range right now in the FDD is somewhere between 500,000 and $1 million, just to use round numbers. That has crept up a little bit. I'd say most of the stores coming online this year, or 2023 and early part of 2024, are in the upper portion of that range, and a few have broken the $1 million ceiling, or in the 1.1, 1.2 range. But those are all for what I would call kind of our classic large scale facility, which is going to be probably about 10,000 square feet, has 80 or 90 kennels, 4 or 5 large daycare rooms, big, everything is very large. Those facilities work really well, but it takes a little bit of time to build the customer list. And we usually say a store isn't mature until about 18 to 24 months. So it takes a while to grow into that size of a store. Obviously, it works really well in big markets, densely populated urban areas. When you get into smaller markets, more rural areas, you don't need to go quite that big. So with our new FDD, we're going to be featuring we have a few smaller concepts that we've tried out over the years, a footprint that's about half the size, about 5,000 square feet. And it just allows everything to happen at a lesser price point. Construction costs are less, loan costs are less,
Right.
build outs quite a bit less. So, I still feel good in that, 500,000 to $1 million range for bigger or smaller stores, but we are going to focus on trying to find some more economical options for people who want to get into this business, but aren't looking to invest $1 million.
Great. When it comes to franchising, I didn't ask you the question. How did you end up deciding you were going to franchise as opposed to just continuing to do corporate locations?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, and it certainly wasn't something that I intentionally, sought out and ever had focused on and thought, okay, once I get to the 3rd location, then I'm going to franchise. But opened a 3rd location here in Pittsburgh, and had a lot of there were kind of 2 events that happened, that kind of pushed me in this direction. So first, we had a ton of customers from all 3 stores saying, hey, how can we get involved? Can we invest? Can we open one of these? How do we, this business is awesome, looks like so much fun. Like,
always a good sign.
Exactly. Always a good thing when your customers want to get in. And then, kind of serendipitously, I was at a wedding, and I'm sitting next to this guy who I always knew as a friend of the family, but didn't really know what he did. And we start talking, and I tell him about my new business, and he says, oh, I'm a business consultant. And, if you want, I'll come by and check out your new business and give you some pointers and tips. So sure enough, he comes and hangs out for a day, and then says, I'm going to come back tomorrow. Like, this is really cool. I never knew people, doggy daycare was a thing. Let me come check this out. So he comes back the next day, and about lunchtime, he says, Jess, let's go have lunch. So go have lunch. And he says, have you ever thought about franchising? And I said, I haven't. And from what I know of it, I don't think I really like it. And like, but why? And he said, well, I'm a business consultant now, but I started actually turning my first business into a franchise that, we sold 400 or opened 400 units, domestically, and sold that and took another concept up to 500 units, internationally. And he said, I'm not quite sure that I've ever seen such a perfect business suited for franchising as what you have here. And do you want to explore it more? So, fast forward 2 years and a lot of time and money spent developing all the manuals and numerous versions of the FDD and franchise agreement and everything else. We launched the franchise, but really having a mentor who had done it and been successful in the 70s and 80s and 90s of franchising was so important for us, because he did some things that, frankly, I know we wouldn't be here right now if he wouldn't have forced us to do that. The first of which was, he said, your first year, we're going to sell 2 stores and then stop. And I said, 2? Like, we just spent all this money in 2? Like, what? He said, believe me, 2, you've never done any, so 2 is a lot. Let's just get 2. So sure enough, opened 2 locations. The second year, he said, let's sell 3 and then stop. And I'm like, Mark, this is crazy. So he said, no, believe me, that's a 50% increase from last year. That's good. Let's get those 3. So sure enough, we sold 3, got those 3 open in the same year. The third year came along, and I said, Mark, if you say 4, I'm going to kill you. Like, we got to go. And he said, you're really going to kill me, because the answer is 0. And I said, 0. He said, if these first 5 aren't successful, this brand is never going anywhere. We're going to focus on these first 5. We're going to work with them, make them as successful as possible, find out what works, what doesn't work, what they like, what they don't like.
I love it.
So we listened, didn't even put out an FDD in 2016. And we worked with those first 5, and probably no surprise to you, they didn't like much of anything we were doing. The manuals sucked. The marketing was terrible. The point of sale system was outdated. Everything needed to be improved. And had we not done that, we never would have been able to scale. We'd never be in the position we're in now. So we took that year and retooled and relaunched in 2017. And again, slow and controlled growth has always been something he impressed upon us, and we've always done that. But I think that's, as I look back on it, it was one of those things that I'm like, this guy's crazy, and why am I even listening to him? And it was some of the best advice I've ever been given.
And how many locations now open?
So we have 27 open right now,
Nice.
but we are probably going to double up this year. We have 14 locations that are going to be opening this year before July, and the back half of the year looks pretty much as busy as the front half. So we're going to hopefully break the 50 unit mark, which has been a target and goal of mine for quite some time this
Awesome.
year, and hopefully blow past 75 next year.
So let's dive into selection of a great franchisee. How do you know when somebody is an appropriate franchisee for you? And then dive into that process of
Sure.
what you do with them. Do you actually teach them how to train people when they come to Discovery Day? Train dogs, I mean? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, if only were that easy. I think finding the right franchisee, I mean, people always say, what do you look for? And I think most franchisors are looking for pretty much, a similar skill set in terms of somebody who, is happy,
Yeah,
is honest with themselves and you, is willing to work, much harder than they've ever worked before, unless they have previous business ownership. But, most people coming into franchising do not have, all that much entrepreneurial or business background on their own.
right.
My favorite expression is, entrepreneurs are the people who, work 80 or 90 hours a week to make sure they don't never have to work 40 hours a week again. And it's really true. And I think a lot of it for me is, trying to pull away the dog rosy colored glasses, because at the end of the day, this is a business. And just because you love dogs and the concept of getting to go to work every day and being with 50, 70, 100 dogs every day sounds incredible, that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that all of the same pressures and stresses and annoyances and difficulties that go with every other business aren't going to be there. And in sometimes it's even more difficult because, when things go wrong, when dogs get sick, when dogs get injured, when people don't treat dogs the way that you think they should be treated, that there's an emotional toll that it takes on you as well if you have that
Yes.
connection to the animal. So, for us, I always say there's a big spectrum out there. You have the people who are just totally dog obsessed. And they're probably not going to be the best franchisees because they don't have the ability to actually administer the business side of things. And the other end of the spectrum, you have the Wall Street people who, to your point where you started off with this, everybody loves the pet industry right now and just sees dollar signs, but that's probably not going to work either, because if you can't administer the customer service and the goodwill and forget about the P&L as you
Yeah.
allow the business to grow, you're not going to be successful either. So there's a middle ground there, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of working with people and laying out to them what it actually means to be a business owner, what it actually means to be a franchisee in the dog stop. And a lot of it is, I spend probably just as much, if not more time, trying to talk people out of this. Not because I don't think they'll be successful. I just want to make sure that people go into this with their eyes wide open and know what you're getting yourself into.
I love that. You want to talk people out of it. And essentially, that's probably more of a test. Like, wait, you understand there's work to be done here. This isn't all fun and games, right? It's not just playing with
Right.
dogs all day.
Exactly. Exactly. It's the truth. I mean, it's again, I think it's something that more franchisors should do, and it's just making people aware of what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work for them, it's not going to work for the franchisor. It's a lose-lose, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to be involved in that.
So if I, as a franchise broker, send you somebody or you get somebody through a broker
Sure.
network or what have you, what is the process like? There's obviously a first call. How does it progress? Where,
Absolutely.
is there a meet the team day, discovery day?
Absolutely. So, we have I think a somewhat unique process, but it seems to work really well, as almost everybody who's ever come to Pittsburgh for a Meet the Team Day has ended up signing up. So I like the process we have, but I know that it's a little bit unique. So it starts in a very similar way. We have an intro call. The next call is kind of an introduction to the FDD and getting people familiar with what the Federal Disclosure Document is, walking through all the key provisions and items in there. After that, I actually get involved in the process very early on. We have what we call the CEO call, because again, it's my first chance to meet you as a prospect and kind of give you the who, what, when, where, and why of the dog stop, coming from my perspective, being the owner, and it's the first time I try to start talking people out of it. And then we get into a territory call where we really dive into your market. We have an incredible mapping software, Buxton, that we use, and we've populated it with all kinds of incredible dog data to go along with all the human demographics. And we really look at your market and figure out where the competitors are, where the best opportunities are, and make sure, again, that aligns with your expectations of what your future business could look like. If you're not on my, same wavelength of, I'd rather you drive 45 minutes to an hour to a home run location as opposed to 5 minutes to a D location in your backyard, then that's another kind of disqualifier right there. But that's part of the process. And then, there's validation. I'm a huge proponent of, I want you to talk to every one of my franchisees, the ones who hate me, the ones who love me, and all the ones in between. You just, again, you got to know what you're getting yourself into. It's one thing to hear it from me and the salespeople, but I want you to hear it from others in your shoes who have lived the life, and some are brand new. Some have been doing it for 10 years now.
Yeah.
And then we invite you to Pittsburgh, assuming, everybody still likes what they've heard and still wants to move forward, and the feelings are mutual. You come to Pittsburgh, we spend about 24 hours here in Pittsburgh. We go out for dinner to get to know each other, but then we bring you to a store. We let you see the store. You can get in with the dogs if you want. And then we have an incredibly comprehensive kind of discovery day process and program where we go through every aspect of the business. I've had a bunch of other people come in here and say, like, wow, you really tell us everything, and you don't hold anything back, and there's none of this, oh, it's proprietary, oh, that's secret. I don't believe in that stuff. I think this is, you got to know what you're getting yourself into, and transparency, all those same principles that we started at the corporate level that made us successful, we keep those, going through the franchisor as well.
Jesse, that's great stuff. So Pittsburgh, what's going on with Pittsburgh and Hollywood? Because I have a friend that is a producer director that's in Pittsburgh for the next 6 months. What's going
Yeah.
on there?
No, it's pretty cool actually. And I like the question as it's not a typical one on a franchise broadcast, but from my understanding of it, and I'm certainly not in the movie business, but I think there's some very, very healthy tax credits and other benefits to filming here in Pittsburgh. So a lot of production companies have been doing that, and it's been going on for quite a while now. But it's been awesome for us because we have a world renowned trainer. He's our director of dog care, and he's helped kind of craft all of our dog care policies and
Fabulous.
procedures. Brett Reynolds, yeah, and every movie that comes to town now, if there's whether there's a dog in the movie or the movie crew have their own dogs or whatever their needs may be, Brett is their guy, and
I love it.
he has starred or his pets and his trainees have been in countless movies over the last 5 or 10 years. So
Look at
we're
that.
excited to have that here.
Fabulous. Talk about marketing a little bit. So, well, marketing and training. So
Mm.
you find the right franchisee, they jump into training at some point. What does that entail? You're doing some stuff while they're in their own market, I'm assuming, book
Yeah,
stuff or online, and obviously
yeah.
there's some stuff that has to be done in person.
Without a doubt. So we start you can't do much when you have a brick and mortar concept. You can't do much from a marketing or promotion perspective until you have a physical address. Of course, we start with the, kind of generic coming soon to the region where we think we're going to be. But as soon as we have a physical address, that's when, all the social media pages and the website and everything goes up, and we start building a following and trying to, cultivate customer lists and things like that. And that certainly gets much more intense, usually at about the 120, 140 days out from opening, where we really start pushing the pre-opening and grand opening specials and building the customer list. But from a training perspective, yes, it starts much earlier than that. Our use is a little bit unique in terms of, our requirement from a real estate perspective is a little bit more challenging than a lot of others out there. Not only do we have a big footprint, we have certain economic needs. Zoning can be a challenge. So we really start right away, kind of teaching our franchisees how to learn a little bit about, real estate and zoning. We're very involved in that process, site selection, in the event that we need to get a permitted use or approved use or rezone a parcel or whatever it may be. We have people here who support our franchisees in that regard.
Right.
Design and construction management, we're involved in that. But then the true training on business operations, that starts up almost immediately. We have an incredible the Dog Stop University. It's kind of an online school where you can start taking classes, and there's 10 or 20 different chapters and coursework and curriculum that you have to go through prior to even coming to Pittsburgh for what is the then week-long in-person training, where you really kind of get the hands-on experience in the stores with the dogs. You bring a team with you, obviously your management team who's going to be running the store and training the lower level employees. And then we're on site for the week of the grand opening to reinforce everything that was learned, to help you kind of with all the natural little hurdles that you encounter in that first week of business, and also kind of refresh the whole
Love
training.
it. So I imagine the grand opening is a pretty big deal, right?
It is. It is. It's I always try to temper expectations because, we put a lot of effort and time and focus into building this big event, and it's awesome. I mean, the last couple that we've done, we've had 600-700 people come through the doors in that first day, which is
Wow.
really exciting. But then, I also let franchisees know that, like, hey, there's going to be a bit of a vacuum here. That next day, the next week, the next month, don't expect that same reception every day, and
Yeah.
people don't have an everyday need for dog care. So this
Yeah.
is not like a restaurant where your goal is to have every table full in the first, month or the second month. It takes a while. So, we consider one of our businesses mature, usually somewhere between 18 and 24 months. And, we have big facilities, and it takes that long to get you to those, 60, 70 dogs per day numbers.
So, you mentioned transparency a couple of times,
Mhm.
and in your disclosure document, and for those
Yep.
playing along at home, in the franchise disclosure document, there is what's called item number 19, the financial representations earnings claim, as it's called as well. And the dog stop has an incredibly transparent item 19 in that you're listing all of the location sales. I mean,
Correct.
I see one of the locations with over 2.3 million in sales, which is absolutely incredible. So tell me a little bit about that. I mean, you have every year for those listening, you guys have to update. Every brand updates their disclosure document. So you're going to continue to show that much transparency. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out how to be even more transparent. I mean, it's one of the things that drives me nuts about franchising is that we as franchisors who are trying to help people get into business, we're often handcuffed and there's, so many rules and regulations of what we can say and what we can't say. And, I'm somewhat surprised when people are like, "Oh my God, you put those numbers in there." I'm like, how can anyone not put those numbers in there?
Yeah.
Because how could you expect anyone to invest in a business when they don't know what the numbers are? Like I
Right.
just it doesn't make any sense to me. So
I love it.
we're always going to put the numbers in there. It is what it is. If you don't have good numbers, then you probably shouldn't be franchising your business. And
Yeah.
if you have something to hide, so we're gonna continue to go down that path and give as much information as we legally can. And of course, our franchisees, obviously, I want to make sure that they're comfortable with everything. But
Yeah.
to your point, our top performers are doing exceptionally well, and we're lucky. We have excellent validation in our franchisees through that process. Often we'll just send the full P&L, the balance sheet, whatever somebody asks for when they're trying to, just to help model their own performa and things like that as they're putting their business plan together. So,
That's
um,
amazing. Yeah. I know that's absolutely, I applaud you for that. That is what we call responsible franchising for sure. When it comes to picking a franchise, there's a lot of people watching, don't know what business is right for them. They're just not sure yet,
sure.
but they're going to like you because of your transparency. What are some of the things that people should look out for in some of your competitors? Because not all franchises are created equal. So, what are
Right.
the things that you're concerned about for people these days in franchising?
No, that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. Just
Sure.
because, look, I think responsible franchising, you've said it once or twice now, and I think that's my new favorite term. Um, you know, somebody once told me, and you probably know the exact numbers behind this, but apparently in the US, for the last 30, 40 years, there's been somewhere between, I don't know, 4 and 5,000 registered franchise brands every year. And every year, 1,000 or 1,500 new brands registered a franchise. But the overall number of franchise brands doesn't actually change because that many go out of business every year. So I think a lot of people, have a good business and they decide I'm going to franchise and they go out there and they sell, sell, sell. And I don't know how many of those brands end up being successful. And unfortunately, when they're unsuccessful, there's a lot of franchisees out there who lose their investment. And even if they can stay afloat in the business that they started, they don't have the support they thought they were going to get, and they
Yeah.
may as well have just started their own. So I think validation is wildly important. If you're not getting a good sense from the franchisor that they want you to validate and talk to the franchisees, if you're not hearing good things from the franchisees, that's obviously a big red flag. I think, not that every brand can have a ton of units open and things like that, but I think, just proceed with caution if you're looking at, a brand that only has 1 or 2 units and they're both corporate stores and there are no actual franchisees. And I think also, as I mentioned earlier, the whole slow and controlled growth thing for us, I know that was insanely important. And unless you have $20 million in the bank to launch your franchise concept, it's going to be really hard to open 20, 30, 50, 100 franchises if you've never opened one before. So I think it's just, these hopefully all sound like somewhat of common sense type things to people out there. But
Yeah.
and it's one of the things everybody I talk to, whether they decide it's not the right fit or we decide it's not the right fit, I always say to everyone, you have my, phone number, you have my email address. If you continue looking and you find another franchise that you like, I'm always here to try to help be a resource when it comes to franchising in general, because, I want you to find ultimately what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that because the reality is people ask me all the time, are all franchises great? No, it's like the stock market. You have to know which stocks to pick. Well, which franchise do you pick? That's why I always suggest to people use a franchise broker like me
Mhm.
because I'm going to be your free resource essentially. Because,
Yep.
the beautiful part, Jesse, of franchise brokers or consultants, we get paid like, recruiters. And
Right.
I represent over 900 brands these days, and I have a lot of great ones, including like yours.
Yep.
So, when it comes to the future of pet care or the pet
Yep.
industry, what do you see? It almost seems like the pet care industry exploded not that long ago, and the future is bright. A lot of people that are looking for recession proof or recession resistant businesses, I always tell them kids and pets are
Yep.
recession proof. People are always going
Right.
to take care of their kids and their pets. So I know you're in a good space. So what's your thoughts?
Yeah, and I like to add to that the
Yeah.
majority of our business is also internet proof, which is another, important, I think, factor when you're looking at a business. But
It's Amazon
um,
proof. That's right.
exactly, Amazon proof. So no, it's a good question, and it is. It's an industry that's been around for a long time, but it has rapidly evolved. Doggy daycare is 20, 25 years old, but the expectations that people have and the level of care that they're looking for is really what's changed. And dogs have very rapidly kind of elevated in the social hierarchy here, and it's they're kind of on par with the kids pretty much at this point. And I think pet care may even have a leg up on the recession proof thing with kids because people are having less kids and they're having kids later. And
Yeah.
for the
They're
first
having
time
hairy
ever.
kids, hairy and four-legged kids.
Exactly. And then, empty nesters, they're missing their kids, so they're going out and getting dogs. And
Yeah.
for the first time ever in the US, more than 50% of dogs are actually owned by the millennials and younger generations. And,
Wow.
they are so experience oriented, and they basically anything they do for themselves they want to do for their dogs. So the majority of the direction I see the industry going is more kind of in the health and wellness type of things, where before it was just I need some baseline level of essential care. Now it's what can I add on to that care while my dog's with you that really elevates the experience and focuses in on not only the physical but mental stimulation of the dogs. We do a lot with what we call our enrichment programs, which, as it sounds like, it's enriching the experience and the time that the dog has while they're with us. It could be everything from treats and toys. We have interactive puzzles. We do scent work to, play with the dogs and lead them through the facility using their nose. And we have a lot of one-on-one human to dog type things like cuddle time and story time and leash walks and you can go to the park, you can go, for a swim. You can it's really all about, whatever you can come up with or we come up with that you might like your dog to do while they're with us, whether it be just for a couple hours during the day or while you're away on vacation for a week. That is kind of where this is going, and it's a much more kind of personalized level of care that just really enhances the experience for everybody.
Love it. Well, I have four dogs, so I'm excited about the dog stop, and thanks for being here. So, final thoughts, final words of wisdom or tips for those listening.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, we've it's kind of going back to that responsible franchising thing. I mean, owning your own business is a wonderful thing. But it's not for everybody. And I think a lot more people think it's for them than the reality is that it's actually for them. So, just ask all the questions, find as many people like Lance as you can to talk to about this venture that you're trying to get into. And make sure there are people who, don't necessarily have any skin in the game, who aren't going to necessarily profit from whatever choice that you make. People who have experience, have been around the block, specifically in franchising, and can just help you understand, you know, what you're getting yourself into and making sure that it's the right opportunity for you. Because at the end of the day, you're going to work harder than you've ever worked before, but it's also the most rewarding thing you've ever done. But you just want to make sure that it becomes that.
Jesse, you're awesome. Thanks for being here and sharing your story.
Thanks, Lance. Talk to you soon.
My pleasure. If you're ready to talk about franchise opportunities, hit the link below to schedule a call. My services are free, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.